I don't think I ever really believed everything.
And I realized that quite a few of the things didn't hold water.
The actual religions were man-made from wherever.
God? Who's God? What's God?
I think that skepticism really is the first step.
Scientific zest and zeal for the real world.
That was it. I was an atheist from then on.
So that was an important reason why I left Scientology.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rad.
Hi, I'm Susan, and this is our friend Bill, here to discuss his road to atheism.
Bill, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay, very good. We know you're enthusiastic about your religious feelings now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was kind of raised initially as a Roman Catholic, although we weren't a very churchy Roman Catholic. It was just,
Cafeteria type Catholic,
cafeteria type Catholic, lackadaisical.
Right. Here for the holidays, to open the
holidays and da-da-da, and like that, yes.
Okay. When you were young, was there any time that, what was the year that you, or age that you felt that you started to see things differently than maybe your parents or your relatives or friends?
Well, the curious thing is that my mother was raised as an atheist. Okay.
Oh, I see.
And she kind of raised us kind of like Roman Catholics. Like I said, it was a very churchy thing. Mm-hmm. And I asked her about it. Why did she have us, why did she have us go to Catholic church and, get religious instruction and et cetera, et cetera. And she said that when she was young, she lived in the Lower East Side. Okay, and she lived in a neighborhood that was a lot of kind of lower class Italian and Irish Catholics, and the other people in her neighborhood, especially like the children and stuff, knew that they were atheists and that they would have brothers and sisters would get into fights.
Oh. So there was ostracism there.
So there was like a little ostracism, and sometimes it escalated into physical confrontations.
Right.
So,
do you have a brother? Do you have a brother or sister or anybody else or a sibling? Or it was just you as the young?
No, I have other brothers and sisters.
Were they involved in the same kind of confrontation with them?
No, see, I wasn't. Okay, I wasn't. It was like my mother and her brothers and sisters.
I follow.
Okay, when they were living like in the Lower East Side, it was like a Roman Catholic.
What year was this approximately?
Jesus, well, she was born in 1928.
Probably the 30s, early 40s.
So it was like the 30s and early 40s, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, she and her brothers and sisters used to get into fights and stuff. Mm-hmm. And she said the reason she had us go to Catholic church and all that kind of so was to avoid us getting into fights and having problems with the neighbors.
From her experience that she was there.
Right.
Was your father a believer?
No, not strongly. No. See, I have a genetic father, but he was gone by the wayside by that, at an early age.
What is your background ethnically?
I'm like about 25%. Well, I don't have a ethnic background. I'll say genetically, okay.
Like a mutt, like us.
Yes. Genetically, I'm a mutt. Okay. I wasn't really raised in any particular ethnic culture,
The reason why I say that, saying that, is that your mother was obviously opposed to religious teachings and stuff of that nature. Right. It could have very well been for maybe where she came from in Europe, in a certain part or another part of the country, that was more acceptable, and she was forced in that area. This is my guess. So.
Well, she was pretty much. She was born and pretty much raised in New York City most of her life.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think her grandparents were like Native American on her mother's side.
Ooh, nice.
Okay, and then it was like kind of Scotch-Irish on
A mix.
you know,
Okay.
her,
I follow you.
her grandfather's side.
So she was
her paternal.
So she was exposed to various ethnic and different cultures, and that's the reason why she.
So what kind of neighborhood? Was you raised in a religious neighborhood too, or?
Well, yeah. Where I was raised, it wasn't in the same neighborhood, but I was raised in another neighborhood. Again, pretty much kind of lower class neighborhood. You know, economically lower class.
Okay.
And it was mostly it was like Italians and and it was like Italian Catholics.
Very religious, both Irish
Yes.
and
Yeah.
right.
Well, Italy is the land of the Pope.
That's right.
Right.
Vatican area. So, well, that's very good. Was there any particular age where you felt that you became strongly attached to the idea of atheism, or at least humanist point of view?
See, I really didn't really pay kind of a lot of attention on that, you know. I mean, like I said, I went to like Catholic schools and got religious instructions. I used to have like,
But you weren't brainwashed.
but I wasn't, no, I was never really a believer, you know, or a strong believer. It was just, you know.
You went along with it.
Yeah, pretty much, you know. But again, I wasn't exposed to atheism as a doctrine or, you know, or as a philosophy until probably not until my 20s, I guess.
Okay.
You know, and that's when I first started. So now I would be an atheist because I never really believed, you know, what I was told by the Catholics, sort of
again.
nuns and
The dogma.
priests and such.
Yes.
But you know, but I never really heard about atheism per se until I guess my 20s,
Okay. So in other words,
early 20s.
In other words, basically your feelings from hearing the talk just didn't jive right with you.
Yeah.
And later on you found out there is a term, there is
Yeah.
a label for that type of
Right.
thing. Okay.
Right.
Did you ever run into any ostracism or problems with the job or neighbors when you got older in
No.
your 20s?
I've had no, you know, I've
Like
had
your mother had.
no. It's definitely not near to the degree that my mother had. No, none of that.
It was a generation later. So.
Yeah, it was like
Things
a
changing,
generation.
less rosary
Yeah.
bead type.
Yeah. And I worked for Verizon, you know, or well at that time it was
Bell.
New York Tel or whatever.
Bell, and then it
Right.
changed.
So it was a fairly large, you know, corporation, and again, I wasn't really like an out atheist. You know, it's not like I, you know, said I'm an atheist. Da 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 da. I just really didn't, you know.
The closet door was half open.
Yeah, and nobody even at the job, except for maybe one exception, you know, really talked much about religion on the job.
So there was no threat as far as
No,
job.
I didn't. Yeah. It wasn't like, you know, I was afraid I'd lose my job.
Yes, we're so
If I-
fortunate
yeah, if I
living in New
can.
York City.
Well, it was that, and it was also, you know, that I worked for New York Tel, which was a large kind of corporation, so they, you know,
they had their rules.
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
yeah.
Any interesting story about that one exception?
Well, I did have a discussion with one woman, you know, and I don't know how we got on the topic about God and stuff, and you know, I really, really don't believe all the stuff about, you know, that I read in the Bible about God and da da da, and she got upset about it, and she said I was an infamous and decadent person, and the
Oh, I
funny
love that term.
yeah. And the funny thing is that I actually had a nameplate made up that said the infamous and decadent Bill Carter, and I had that on my desk at work. I still have that at home.
We have a question to is.
Becoming an atheist was not a direct line for you. There was a couple of twists and turns.
Yeah.
And can you tell us what some of those twists and turns were?
Well, you know, I mean, again, it was discovering what atheism was. I mean, I did get involved in a religion, or so-called religion, or perhaps a religious cult. That was called Scientology. Okay. And I found it kind of interesting. This was like maybe when I was around 21, 22 is when I first heard about it, and I kind of got involved in it, you know. And it sounded interesting. It wasn't like a specifically theistic religion. I mean, they never really talked about God.
How did they get you interested in it? What was it that struck a chord with you?
Well, because it sounded like, you know, sciencey. You know, I like kind of sciencey. You know, I like science, and again, it wasn't.
They lure you in by the name.
Yeah.
And they didn't mention in the beginning about going to different levels with Claire, et cetera, et cetera?
Actually, yes. They did kind of explain to me, look, we have different tone scales, you know, and, you know, as you get these processed, or what they call, you know, where you hooked up to an e-meter and audited. It's what they call auditing.
Audits, right.
So when you get audited, you know, then you kind of proceed up, you know, the spiritual ladder, so to speak.
Was there any monetary exchange?
Not really, no, 'cause I didn't have any money.
So it's,
That helps.
So
it's more psychological.
Yeah, I didn't have any money to, you know, to really give them. You know, I mean, I bought a couple of their books and stuff, you know, but I didn't have much money. And then circumstances came along. My mother decided that it was time for me to go out on my own, so to speak. And so I didn't have a job at the time, so I got a job working for Scientologists where I could make money. You know, so they gave me a job and da-da-da. And I kind of joined, I was an actual staff member, you know, after that happened, after my mother decided
You on your own.
that I should be on my own. You know, I became a member of staff, and I taught a couple courses. You know, they had like a variety of courses. I taught like what they call a communications course.
I see. Did they have inside words for you to get the people involved?
Well, they had their own jargon. See, I was never much an outgoing person, you know, where I would kind of go out on the street and try and get people to, you know.
Yes,
How long did you
stay with them?
I was probably involved as a staff member for maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years, all told. And then, to put it once I got a job for, also I was living with Scientologists. You know, we had an apartment. There was, I think, 2 or 3 of us had an apartment. But once I got a job, like for New York Telephone at the time, I didn't need to get a job to work for Scientologists.
Right.
So I kind of eventually abandoned Scientology.
Did they let you go, or did they?
Not very readily. Not very readily. They kind of told, you know, said, well, you know, you have to do this. And they do what they call like an ethics check, you know, to find out, well, did you lie or steal or do something like that, you know, while you were a Scientologist. And so that was like a process. But eventually I did, you know, get cleared, the okay to leave.
Wow. And if you didn't get an okay to leave, what would happen?
Well, they would just keep maybe harassing me or, you know, keep, you know,
questioning you.
Trying to find out why I didn't want to be a Scientologist anymore, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, when you left that and you went on to working for Marbell,
right,
et cetera, was there any time that that you found out, or I should say, how did you know about New York City Atheist Organization?
I think I didn't find out about the New York City Atheist Organization until it's got to be maybe at least after 35, after I was 35 or 40 years old.
Okay.
Okay.
And how was that? How did you hear about it?
How did I find out about New York City Atheist?
Tabling on the street, newsletters, friends?
It might have been, I think it was like tabling on the street, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And you saw it, you
and then I saw it, and oh, okay, sounds like an interesting organization, you know. And then I started, going to the different meetings, and well, okay, I like
Here you
this,
are.
you know.
Okay. I want to ask you something, okay? Something that I find a little puzzling. I'd like to know. You say you like science, and you found it fascinating, interesting. Any particular thing that you found in science was conflicting with the dogma that was given by the church or whatever?
No, not really. Like I said, the two things that that convinced me is they made certain statements that after a period of time, as the longer you're in Scientology, the better person you'll be, and I was looking around at a lot of people that I had known for a few years, who were Scientologists, and they didn't seem to be getting better to me.
Well.
So that was an important reason why I left Scientology.
Okay, I see.
Okay. And then again, there was like the economic thing, which I no longer, needed them for economic support.
So you had two good reasons.
Yeah. See, I never got really paid for being on staff. Okay, so I never got paid for that.
But room and board?
Or room and board. Okay, but like I said, there were other Scientologists who had outside jobs or outside businesses, and the ones that had outside businesses, I worked for them, and I got paid, for my work by them.
Did you see any famous people, personalities that were well known?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
Apparently, there are two levels of Scientology, for the peasants and then for the...
And for those who are the actors and actresses.
And actually, if I remember correctly, there was, at that time at least, it was kind of frowned upon when I was in it to use celebrities as a means to try and
name dropping,
bring people in.
Okay, I follow you. All right, that's very interesting. How do you feel about the nation's treatment of atheists and the situations today with billboards and confrontations, in addition to seeing the use of the media, such as the web, YouTube, and other places where you have debates? Do you ever watch any of those?
Yeah, I do like to watch. I do on occasion watch debates like between Dawkins and him, or Dawkins and a theist, or Christopher Hitchens and this guy named Ramadan, who's a Muslim, and I like watching those debates.
You sort of reinforce your thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah, pretty much.
And science, that is.
Yeah.
Beliefs in science. All right. Well, fine. We certainly appreciate that. Thank you very much. Anything else
hold
that
it. Ken has
you
some...
may have? Ken, you want to mention something?
You participated in a few of our demonstrations. How did you enjoy doing that?
I liked it. I enjoyed it. One of the things that I really enjoyed the most, I guess, is when they had the Reason Rally in Washington, D.C., and the Atheist Convention that came after that. So I had a nice time doing that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That Reason Rally is so important because it shows the future of organizations such as ours and like ours, that you have the youth that are involved. And I think that what a good 50%, if not more, of the people that showed up at the Reason Rally were young people. that
Yeah.
were educated, convinced. They see the internet has changed
Yes.
their point of view, and I think this is very, very important. And I
Yeah.
think you realize that too. We were there at the same time.
Yeah,
So.
and the other thing that I liked about the reason is they had like a coalition of different groups. You know, they maybe weren't all atheists or outright atheists, but there was like a variety, women's groups, and they had CFI, the Center for Inquiry.
And the military.
They had a group there, and they had the military. I think there were secular humanists there, but I don't remember.
Yes.
You know, so there was secular. So it was like the coalition of all of these people, you know, coming together
With a common cause.
with a
Yes.
common cause, which I felt
Yeah.
really was a great
big
thing.
And now more than
Yeah.
ever,
Now
after the
more than
events in
ever,
Paris,
right.
you know,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to put away childish things.
Right.
Okay, is there anything else?
Anyway, I gotta get 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
Have you felt or feel that your life has been improved because you're an atheist?
Yeah, I would guess so. Yeah, I mean,
To an extent that
to an
you're
extent.
open
Yeah,
to listen to.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know,
You do more critical thinking and listening to
Right.
people when they talk and responses.
right. I think
Politicians
so, yes.
to the average
Sure.
person.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And not confined to
That's
what the
good.
church declares you have
No,
to.
I do.
Well, a lot of people unfortunately still are.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the benefits that you become more sensitive to the opposing groups when you listen to what they have to say, and you watch the education of children, which I think is the most unfortunate thing that happens. But that's just my point of view. When they're trained into believing in magic and myths, you know,
Right.
and that's
And again, like I said, I was kind of, well, they attempted to educate or indoctrinate or brainwash me, you know.
It didn't stick.
But it didn't really stick. And I think a lot of that may have to do also is that my parents, you know, weren't, you know, God-fearing, church-going.
And your siblings, they're also atheists? Or-
No, not really. No, I mean they're kind of like, again, semi.
Holiday Catholic?
Yeah, holiday. Well,
cafeteria.
none of them are really Catholics. Well, I mean,
spiritually.
yeah,
in certain ways.
or whatever. I mean, they don't go to church. You know, none of my brothers and sisters go to Catholic church.
But they believe in
On a rack. Well, they
a higher
kind of
being.
they kind of believe, but they don't practice. They may believe, but they don't practice.
Okay.
Okay.
When your family gets together, when your family gets together, and let's say they have a big dinner, and say it's around Christmas time, do they say grace? Do they hold hands? Do they do anything of that type?
No.
They don't?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's because of mom that was involved.
Yeah. They don't do that. They don't do that. Maybe it had happened once. But as a regular course, it's not really done. You know, either on Christmas or Thanksgiving, if we get together for Thanksgiving. There's no, you know, let us say grace or that kind of a thing.
What do you like about our organization? Is it the tabling, or is it the Sunday brunch, or is it the get-togethers, the meetups, or where they cover things in the library, or what is it? What, books?
Well, it's a lot of those things. It's not any particular one thing, you know.
Well, we have such a variety.
Yeah, there's such a variety of things, and it's a nice social organization. And all people are kind of social to one degree or another. So I like communicating or being with or socializing with people who share pretty much the same ideas that I do. I mean, we don't agree on everything, you know, but we have pretty much a general agreement, you know.
And the Sunday
And
brunches.
said about. I like that. for the most part, I love the Sunday brunches.
It's educating.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's interesting and educating, and again, you're also hanging out with people
Right.
who pretty much share the same values.
And for those people who are listening to our program, the second Sunday of the month, we have the Sunday brunch. It's important to know that we have speakers who are usually professors or doctors or lawyers, notable people and discoverers and go on expeditions, and they actually will come over and speak to the group and tell them their thoughts. And from astrophysicists to the common day person who happens to have an experience that is well worth for us listening to.
And when it's over, we can ask questions of them.
That's right. It's very, very good, and it's social too. Well, I want to thank you very much for
no problem.
participating in there. Is there any thought, last thing in your mind that you might want to mention to the audience out there?
No, not particularly. Again, I enjoy being an atheist. Okay, and
Peace of mind.
and it gives me a kind of peace of mind. I don't have to get up
On Sunday.
on Sunday mornings and listening
The
to
brunch is at noon.
either boring similes.
Well, they put the fear of
Yeah.
God in you and whatnot.
Yeah, well, they try and put the fear of God in me.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
The Treaty of Tripoli was the first treaty concluded between the United States of America and Tripoli. It was submitted by President John Adams, receiving ratification unanimously from the U.S. Senate on June 7th, 1797, and signed by Adams, taking effect as the law of the land on June 10th, 1797. The treaty was a routine diplomatic agreement, but it has gained attention because it included a clause about religion in America. As the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, as it has in itself no character of enmity against the laws, religion, or tranquility of Mussulmen, and as the said states never entered into any war or act of hostility against any Mahometan nation, it is declared by the parties that no pretext arising from religious opinions shall ever produce an interruption of the harmony existing between the two countries. Interesting. The other interesting point about this is that under current operating procedures, all treaties were published in newspapers before the Senate ratified them. If this was truly a horrible point of contention for the founders, or for the new citizens back then,